I'm Larry Smith, citizen. I have a question for Mike. Concerning not only the middle aquifer, but for the deep aquifer, do you have wells that would show you can quantify underflow within those zones? Down low, down gradient wells that are completed in the deep aquifer along with the middle aquifer that would be able to so you could quantify underflow? Because I think by doing it purely by gradient might be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good question. Similar to there being a lot of wells in the shallow aquifer and fewer in the middle unit, there's even fewer in that deep unit. There is one completed directly, directly adjacent to the pumping well. And there's also a few along that same axis that Nick was indicating. As part of our evaluation, we looked at what we felt was the hydraulic conductivity in that layer, significantly less than, I apologize, I don't have the number right off the top of my head, significantly less than the middle portion of the aquifer, and even the shallow. Chemistry data appear to support that, the degree of contamination in that lower unit. Nick, correct me if you know something I'm not looking at, but it appears to be much lower in that lower portion of the aquifer. So that appears to be the lower unit to which the paratailings extend to. Is that answering your question? Okay. So, any other questions? Sorry to get into the weeds there.
I apologize for coming back up here, but as you sit and think there, you think of things, and a couple of things I should have said when I was here is, number one, you guys really have an awesome responsibility. You can see that from what you've heard here tonight, and it's an awesome responsibility because obviously there's a lot of people who really don't know what the hell to do, so you got a tough job ahead of you. But a couple of things that are really important to me that I want to say to you is that, number one, removal of the paratailings really should be a Superfund cleanup decision. That's really what it is, and that's really what EPA and the state and ARCO should really be doing here. That really shouldn't be your responsibility because you're dealing with, what are you going to do with $27 million? If you spend $20 million removing the paratailings, you only got $7 million left to restore the whole Butte Hill and Silverbow Creek and the rest of it. That's what you got left. So, think about that as you're making these decisions, because that's really important. And I think that Joe really hit on this, and it's something I like to always say because it's so important, is that the decisions that are made here are forever decisions. They're forever decisions, and they have forever consequences. And we better make the right decision. And boy, everything that I read, I'm not an expert in this by no means, but I know how to read, and I'm fairly, I don't know how smart I am, but I'm not stupid, I can tell you that. And I know how to read. And there's no question that the paratailings should have been removed earlier, and they weren't. And think about our kids, and think about the future. And I only get up here because I may never be back here again. I don't know, And so I just want you guys to hear that from me, just as a person who lives in this community, who cares about this community. I know everyone else in here does too, but boy, I've been involved in this for a long time. I've been involved in this since like 1983. That's how long I've been involved. And I've seen a lot of decisions, and I've seen a lot of things happen, boy, and they're not good, believe me. And you guys did a tough job. Good luck, and thanks for letting me say what I had to say.
I have one more, and this would be for Julie from EPA. I guess I'm just I'll play Fritz's advocate here. Yes or no? When this seems like there's a lot of CSM, although it's not done, there's a lot of conclusion coming from it that basically says, we ain't returning EPA, and ARCO is not returning to the parrot. So yes or no, is there any chance that EPA will?
From a removal
Yep,
perspective?
from removal.
From groundwater, no, I don't see us doing that.
From any perspective?
Well,
Is there
I
any
think
removal?
one of the answers that, one of the responses to your question has to be, this is always a difficult decision when EPA and our potentially responsible parties, in this case ARCO, get to this place in the consent decree, where we really are saying this is what you have to implement, and this is really what's going to happen out here. It's part of the reason why ARCO and EPA and DEQ and everybody's taking this so serious, because we know that this is a huge decision, and we really want to underscore the importance of that. Our point is to get to the place where all the parties are comfortable that the remedy going forward is going to be protective. That's why we've spent so much time on this additional data collection, and it is important for us to update the site conceptual model. But in every consent decree, it doesn't matter which community that we're working in, we always have an element in the consent decree that if the remedy fails, the decision gets revoked. So that is just a fundamental component of how we do business with an EPA. It's not just specific to Butte, but to every community that we work in. If I had to sit here and say right now, when we look at the parrot tailings again, I don't see it at this point in time. Can I sit here and guarantee that we'll never come back and take a look at it? No. I can't guarantee that. I think part of the debate, and I appreciate what the community has to say about the hard decisions that we all have to make, because we get to the point we can always continue to collect data. And we'll need to continue to collect data. But there will always be data gaps. And there will always be another piece of the question. And so what we have to do collectively is decide what are those data gaps that are the most important ones to fill to make the next decision. And that's really where we're at right now, is trying to fill those data gaps and understanding so we can make this next decision. Is that helpful at all? Or?
If BP is asked to remove parent tailings, we will not sign up for consent decree. If we do not sign up for consent decree, all the funding that we gave the city is withdrawn. So you got to put that in consideration. Well, no, let me add one other thing real quick, I'm sorry. We settled out with the state for $200 million to do natural resource damages. We feel like we've paid the money's supposed to go for groundwater. The state has the money. If you guys want to clean it up and vote to clean it up, that's fine. Why not?
I'm Chris Frick with the Clark Fork Coalition. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you. That sounded like a threat to me, and it's unfortunate that it's based on information that we knew at the time. During the time that the record of decision was made, we knew that there's incomplete information on the parrot tailings. What we have now is another piece of the puzzle, and it may just be one piece, but it's a very important one because it changes the way we look at the aquifer under the parrot tailings. I like Joe's emphasis of looking at the long term. Even if the aquifer can't be cleaned up entirely, a cleaner aquifer may still be better than in perpetuity treatment of very contaminated water. I mean, extremely contaminated water. Is that what you want to leave in place? And I wouldn't underestimate the ability of an aquifer to clean itself up. I mean, I wouldn't, as a hydrogeologist, I'm not going to try to compare the aquifer at Milltown with the aquifer here, but nonetheless, there's incomplete information on the parrot tailings. What we have now is another piece of the puzzle, and it may just be one piece, but it's a very important one because it changes the way we look at the aquifer under the parrot tailings. I like Joe's emphasis of looking at the long term. Even if the aquifer can't be cleaned up entirely, a cleaner aquifer may still be better than in perpetuity treatment of very contaminated water. I mean, extremely contaminated water. Is that what you want to leave in place? And I wouldn't underestimate the ability of an aquifer to clean itself up. I mean, I wouldn't, as a hydrogeologist, I'm not going to try to compare the aquifer in Milltown with the aquifer here, but nonetheless, we had, several wells in that arsenic plume that were several orders of magnitude above drinking water standards. They're now drinkable. The project's just barely done. So, certainly, this seems like a cleanup thing, and I'm hoping that that Butte Silver Bow and the EPA will consider the long-term health of the aquifer and of the people of Butte.
Do you have any other questions or comments? With that, then we'll go to Carol's going to give us a little update on the approval.
The operative word is little. Okay. It's going to talk, everybody said it's just been a great exchange of information here tonight. A couple of things, there are handouts with a lot of the technical data over on that table there, and Pat has said that he has extra copies of Nick Tucci's report for those who want it to see Pat. Mostly I'm here to give you a heads up that we also have another document that I believe this council will want to hear about. And it has been worked on and developed by our larger basin-wide advisory council and members of that council here tonight. Mick Ringsock, other also members of you, I don't see him, is Jim Candich. So this advisory council has worked long and hard in a very dedicated consensus atmosphere. For the, past 6 months, even more, and then also even before then getting educated about the lawsuit, the monies, where monies are dedicated to certain sites, where other monies exist that haven't been allocated, and how might they be allocated to priorities. And what they have developed, and all signed on board, is a recommended resolution of a guidance plan that they are going to be presenting to our Trustee Restoration Council on October 14th at the State Capitol from 1 to 3 p.m. And it's a long name. I have copies of that document here for anybody, for the members of the BNRC. It's on our website. But we're just at the stages of this council going to the Trustee Restoration Council saying, here's what we've been able to come up with. We were charged by the governor to reach consensus, and we have. The next decisions from the Trustee Council will be to go out, whether to go out with that document for public comment, something different, do it now, do it later. That'll be the decision at October 14th. There will be public comment and a chance to come back to both our councils and ultimately go to the governor for a decision about what is a guiding framework for a new restoration plan for the larger amount of dollars that we got in our first lawsuit. I want to be clear that this plan is not about the $28 million this council is charged with deciding about. It's about that larger. And I know that Mick and Mick will probably confirm this, that the members of the advisory council would prefer to present the content of this document. I'm only talking to you about the process, and I'm doing it purposely, not only because it's late. But hopefully, Elizabeth, that can be on the agenda. And I have copies for folks who'd like to have a preview. It's public, available, and there's a lot more process. If the governor were to adopt such a guidance plan, then the staff would develop a very detailed restoration plan that would also be the subject of public comment and input from our councils.
I just want to say I appreciate everyone coming tonight. We appreciate the concern of the community and the larger group that came tonight, and we take our job seriously. We're really trying to look at everything carefully and make the best decisions that we can. Thanks for coming tonight.